welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. Life in this world can have its bitter, sharp moments. Adam's long ago sin brings trouble to us all, and we all need a comfort greater than humans can perform. Jesus is the master supplier of that marvelous grace. Although the religious leaders of his day generally regarded him as an heretical impostor, they could not deny his miracles, and when pressed to extremity, even they knew where to turn. Mark 5. There cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and fell at his feet, and besought him greatly, saying, My little daughter lieth at the point of death. I pray thee, come and lay thy hands on her, that she may be healed. And Jesus went. While he yet spake, there came from Jesus' house certain which said, Thy daughter is dead. Why troublest thou the master? Jesus saith unto the ruler, Be not afraid, only believe. Skipping a few verses, the damsel is not dead, but sleepeth. And he took the damsel by the hand, and said, Arise. And the damsel arose. Whether in other circumstances Jairus would have been among Jesus' adversaries, we don't know. But the terrible urgency of his desperate heart rushed him through all quibbling to eagerly put his trouble in the hands of the Master. Jesus never complains of disrespect when wrung hearts cry to him. Notice Jairus' trust. He was sure that even though his little darling was all but dead when he ran from his house, and was even now perhaps dead, Jesus could give her life. A beautiful trust shines through his words, based no doubt on what he knew of Jesus' miracles. Jesus' gracious, immediate answer is a lovely sign of his willingness to bring the swiftest help. Before Jairus finished asking, Jesus was on his feet. There was little sympathy in the harsh, blunt announcement of the death. The messengers seemed to be thinking more of being polite to Jesus than of the poor father's stricken heart. Have you been like the place? Jairus would feel that he had been more hopeful than he knew. Only when the last glimmer is swallowed by darkness do we realize how much light had lingered in our sky. But Jesus knew Jairus' need before he himself, and his strong word of cheer relit the torch before the poor father had time to speak. That loving eye reads our hearts and anticipates our dreary hopelessness by his sweet comfort. Faith is the only victorious opponent of fear. Jairus had every reason for abandoning hope. His only reason for clinging to it was faith. So it is with us all. It is vain to bid us not to be afraid when real dangers and miseries stare us in the face, but it is not vain to bid us believe, and if we do that, faith, casting into one side of the balance, will outweigh 100 good reasons for dread and despair put on the other. What a contrast between the noise outside and the still death chamber with its silent, cold form, without the commotion of the professional mourners, within the calmness of the true helper. She is sleeping. Christ's great word was spoken for us all when our hearts are sore and our dear ones go. Sleep is rest and bears in itself the pledge of waking. So Christ has changed the shadowed fear of man into beauty, and in the strength of his great word, we can meet the last enemy with welcome, friend. Jesus, in the triumphant consciousness of his own power and in the clear vision of the realities of spiritual being, here denied what men call death, deserves the name. Death is a state of the soul separated from God, whether united to the body or not. It is not the separation of body and soul, which is only a visible symbol of the more dreadful condition. With what tense, hushed expectation they would enter the chamber. Think of the mother's eyes watching him. His very words were like a caress. He took her hand, as no doubt her mother had done many a morning to wake her, to make it so that the first thing she would see when coming from her state would be not this strange man alone, but her father and mother about her. Friends, that same Jesus stands ready to come to your need and mine. Have you talked to him today?
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.